Save It for the Blind is sponsored by Tetra Hearing. Tetra Hearing isn't just hearing protection, it's hearing perfection. Kershaw Knives. Kershaw manufactures next-level pocket knives for outdoor enthusiasts. Save It for the Blind is now also being sponsored by Roseville Motorsports. Roseville Motorsports is the greater Sacramento area's premier destination for all your power sports vehicle needs. Stop in today to browse off-road vehicles from leading manufacturers like Polaris, Yamaha, and more. Rig 'em right, heavily seasoned gear for the die-hard waterfowl hunter. If you guys are enjoying the show, we'd love to hear from you and get your support. Please follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Your reviews really help us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being a part of our community. Welcome back to another episode of Save It for the Blind with your normal co-hosts. I got Carson and Jeff, and today we're going to do a little mid-season update to talk about our properties, CWA properties, as well as what we've been hearing that is going on the state and federal properties, and our seasons, how we've been doing in general also. So Jeff, how's your season been going?
Well, this last weekend was the second huge storm that we've had roll through California. So we've had the Butte Sink flood for the second time. Saturday was probably one of the stronger winds I've hunted in a very, very long time. So
yes.
It was pretty much wet leading up to shoot time, and then when shoot time came around, it was just blowing gusts. We had a veteran hunt out at Grizzly Ranch with a bunch of vets from Camp Pendleton area, and I don't think I've seen so many whitecaps out at
in the boat ditch. In
the boat ditches, it was ripping. So we had a great hunt there. The guys shot over a 6-bird average on Saturday, and then on Sunday it was a 4-bird average. A lot of teal, widgeon. Surprisingly, Grizzly Ranch has been shooting a lot of mallards, which historically has not really been the case for us down there.
No, definitely. I can go over our properties real quick and give everybody an update on what we're doing this year, where we were last year at this time, so kind of see how we compare, and then what our top birds are for this season so far and our averages. So
let's talk the good. Give me the good.
Let's
talk about the Quimby Island.
We'll talk about the highs before we talk about the lows. So surprise property of the year goes to, at least right now, we'll see what it is at the end of the year, Staten Island.
Yeah.
Staten Island last year, 2023, 2024, at this time had killed 338 birds. As we are sitting today, we have killed 605 birds. 4.12 average. Aleutian, the number 1 bird. Speck, number 2. So we have almost doubled the amount of birds we've killed out there this year.
Yeah, and we've been lucky. They've been converting the island to rice the last couple years. It's really helped some of our hunts out there. Historically, it was corn, but some of the big fog days has definitely helped our hunters. So we just want to reiterate, we have one more draw for the 2024-25 general waterfowl season. So all of our January hunts that are coming up, if you're interested in applying to any of our properties, that deadline is this Saturday, December 21st. So at midnight, the deadline closes. And then we do have some youth hunt stuff after that.
And late
goose season. Yep. And then we roll right into spring turkey and pigs. But if you haven't applied yet, or you still want a couple properties that you want to get out to, the deadline is this Saturday. But yeah, Staten Island, it's been a great partnership with everyone there at the Nature Conservancy. And we had a veteran hunt out there on Saturday. And
it's 111 birds for 12 guys?
Yeah, they had like one of those kind of hunts of a lifetime. And it's one of the properties that we have that you can go out and be successful targeting geese, which is, some of our other properties, you will shoot geese, but that's an area where normally you're going to shoot more geese than ducks on a given hunt. And there's really not a lot of places out there like that that's open to the public. So we're really, really excited about that partnership. And we've been out there for a number of years now, but it's just kind of constantly getting better, it seems like.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions. Folks will be like, I have a draw at Staten and I have a draw, let's say, Denverton or Grizzly Ranch. Where should I go? And I always tell people, Staten has the highest ceiling. You have the potential for one of those memorable hunts that you just don't have at the other properties. But you also have a pretty low floor where sometimes we've got 5 blinds out there that we hunt. You might have 2 blinds that shoot 1 or 2, and then the blind next to you might shoot 30 geese. But the ceiling is there, and just because you show up on a Sunday and you get last pick and that blind the day before shot 0, sometimes those geese will move into that field, and the very next hunt, that blind shoots 30. Like, there's no telling what's going to happen at that island.
Yeah, you could have the very last draw of the day, and the blind might not be shooting all that well, and then you're in it, and it's just that day where that's where the geese want to be. So that is a really, really special place, and we're happy to be out there.
Yep. So following Staten Island, probably highlight of the year so far is Quimby Island, also in the Delta. Last year at this time, we had killed 89 birds. So far this season, we have killed 234 birds for a 4.5 average, with mallard being the number 1 bird by far, followed by speckled-belly geese. The change is due to a couple things. We did used to run 1 group of 3 hunters out there. We are now bringing 2 groups of 2, so there are more hunters on the landscape, but we have seemed to hit the hunts pretty good weather-wise. There seems to be birds coming on the island, and I mean, that's over double, almost triple of what we had this time last year harvest-wise.
Yeah, the extra group definitely helps, but we had the second lowest mallard pop, and it seems like, most people that I'm talking to, it seems like there's a good number of mallards on the landscape. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm hearing it.
Well, Grizzly Ranch, for example, we typically don't shoot a whole lot of mallards in the Sassoon Marsh. Last year we did at Denverton, due to a couple of reasons that we've talked about. One being that we had it flooded all year long, but this year at Grizzly Ranch, I mean, we've shot more mallards up to this point than we did all of last year by a long shot. And even this last weekend, we had a blind at Grizzly Ranch, which, it was very, very, very windy. If the wind wasn't there, they probably could have came out with 2 limits of mallards, which historically for that property, you're looking at teal, widgeon, spoons, but there was a lot of mallards around, which is just good to see, especially on a property like that. It's big open water. Tend to not see a ton, even with Joyce Island
right next door.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is that normally when we shoot the mallards at Grizzly Ranch, we shoot the majority of them in the first 2-3 weeks. It's all the local birds. We do a lot of egg salvage releases there. We usually maybe shoot 1 of those or 2 of those, and we know that because they get banded. So it's not like that has a huge impact on our harvest, but we shoot a lot of the birds that are there early. And this season we're shooting them mid-season. Like they're coming through.
Yeah.
And to me, and I have a biology degree, but I'm an armchair biologist. It seems like we're seeing a migration of local mallards that were born up north and coming down. It's the only thing that makes sense in my mind. But to have more mallards already harvested now than we had all last season with a month and a half to go means something.
Yeah, and I think what's nice is we've had a couple big weather events, so we've had a little bit more of a duck season. A little bit. I don't love the flooding because it hurts us in the Butte Sink when it does flood. And kind of got to wait for the water to recede. So we've actually had to cancel a number of hunts. We just had to cancel the hunt Sunday, and potentially the one coming up here in the next couple of days due to the rain. So I don't love that, but I do love the intermittent storms here and there that really help push the birds around and get them moving. And the migration. I mean, there's been a lot of snow in the Northeast zone, colder temps. So, I mean, everyone knows those years, a few years back, where it was just the same weather every single day. And it's really, really hard to hunt ducks like that.
Yeah, even last year we had a large period from middle of November going through, I don't know, say late December, where we had high gray skies, no wind, just kind of killer conditions for ruining a duck hunt. And we, knock on wood, we haven't had that this year. We've kind of had the extremes where you either got hot and sunny, which honestly I'll take over the high gray skies, or we're 4 foot underwater. So,
which I love a good storm in the rice, but a lot of the times in some of those big storms, you end up just kind of really getting wet.
Yeah.
But if we don't have a lot of birds yet and the big storm comes in, it seems like it pushes a lot of new birds around, and you can see those high flights of ducks which I think that's kind of happening now. So we're halfway through the duck season, and it's finally kind of getting rocking and rolling. It's that second week of December, which, on the calendar, it seems like every year like clockwork. If it's not happening by the 10th, 12th, 18th of December, we're kind of getting a little worried. But it seems like we hit that threshold and things are starting to roll.
Yeah, so we'll keep going. We're at Grizzly Ranch now. Last year at this time, we had 818 birds. This year, we are sitting at 980 birds. And if I believe correct, last year was our highest ever, right?
That was our record year ever. And I think we've broke the record every
like 3 years in a row.
3 years. We're like, wow, the ceiling's getting higher and higher there, which is great.
We could potentially kill 2,500 ducks just at a Grizzly Ranch, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, absolutely. So we still have some hunts there in the draw. And if anyone was lucky enough to get on some of the first come, first serve hunts that we launched in July, don't forget to actually show up on the day you reserve the hunt for us. We do have some of those. We do give out notices that the hunt's coming up, but don't be that person where you get the phone call from us the morning of.
Yeah, so Grizzly Ranch at this point is sitting at a 3.1 average, which is great. If you went to a Refuge and they said, oh, yeah, for the season we're shooting a 3.1, I'm stoked.
Yeah.
Teal, number one bird, followed by Spoon, classic Suisun Marsh. Then we'll go one more highlight, and then we'll kind of drop down into some low light. So Goose Lake Badger Almond started off
hot,
real hot. Immensely hot. We can't compare it to last year because of the water situation. Last year, we actually didn't even start hunting it at this point. The first hunt date last year was December 20th. So last year at this time, we had harvested 0 birds. This point.
But last year, it ended on a really solid note.
Oh, it was good. Yeah.
It was good.
So this year, we were able to hunt it earlier due to some water that we got for shorebirds. And we're sitting at 196 birds, a 2.3 average, with Spoons the number 1 and Cinnamon Teal the number 2. So for some reason you have not been able to harvest a Cinnamon Teal in California, and it is on your list of things to do. Go ahead and apply for the Goose Lake Badger Almond Unit because there are lots of them down there. You will most likely have a chance to harvest at least one while you were down there.
Yeah, and that property, it's been a long time coming. We've had a lot of projects, and it was kind of always our vision to have that as a little oasis down there, and it's really starting to turn into that at Badger. High success rate. We put in new blinds last year. Decoys and all that stuff's all provided. So, every year it seems to be getting a little bit better. The only thing that's a little downside to that property is we don't have all season roads. So if it does rain a lot, we have to postpone the hunts there. But it hasn't happened a ton, but it does rain down there occasionally.
One more mid highlight that I would say, Sanborn Slough. It hasn't been shooting as good, but it's still been shooting good. So last year we had 476 birds harvested at this point.
But we had more shoot days because we didn't cancel out.
Correct. We didn't
number
lose.
Of weeks were flooded.
We lost probably 5 hunts from the first flood and the one on Sunday. So 6 hunts.
Yeah, which is a lot.
How many birds do you think we've harvested this year? We harvested 476 birds at this time last year.
We got to be in the threes.
376. We are 100. We are 100 birds below. So we're shooting a 2.9 average.
Oh, 3 bird average.
3 bird average. We'll take it. Teal number 1, bird widgeon number 2. So it's a little bit skewed data because we lost those hunt dates early to the flooding. We'd probably be right back up there, if not a little bit better. So Sanborn, the work that was done 3 seasons ago, has finally kind of come to maturity. Seems like birds are starting to use it a lot more. So hopefully, like Jeff mentioned earlier, when you get the storms up in that area and the bypasses flood out, we do tend to lose ducks pretty easily, and they go chase the fresh water. And then once everything recedes, they come back. So we have some rough hunts after the flood, and then you wake up one day and they're back. So hopefully we don't get it too bad with the floods that we're experiencing now. So now for the not as bright stars for the properties, we're going to go to Butte Creek, right next door to Sanborn. Last year at this time, we had 129 birds. So again, we've had to cancel 6 hunt dates. This season, we're at 125 birds. So we're actually close to last year, but it just doesn't seem like it is shooting as many birds as it should be. We have a 2.3 average, with wood ducks being the number 1 bird and widgeon being number 2.
Yeah, and we haven't got that for whatever reason. It's usually, like John Simmons, the past owner, told us, once the leaves fall off the willow trees, the mallards start showing up. We haven't seen that yet. Again, when the leaves were coming off, we were still flooded. We literally just opened the property back up, had 2 shoot dates, and then we had to cancel it again. So it should be any minute now. But historically, even when we've had hunts out there, after the hunters are gone, the afternoons, like the birds usually kind of pile in there as a closed zone little sanctuary. So I got high hopes. It looks beautiful out there. Tons of smartweed. It at some point, it could be after the season. Sometimes the birds do find it. It's just when they find it.
Yep.
We're waiting for them.
Yeah, and I will touch, and you can touch on this a little bit. If you are one of those folks where we have had to cancel hunts, we're not doing it because we just don't want to go to work. And it is a safety issue. There is multiple feet of moving water coming across our roads where we can't even access down there. So it is a safety reason. It's not us going, not today.
Yeah, unfortunately, it really wears on me when we have to cancel the hunts, because I don't want to cancel anything. But in regards to the hunt we just canceled on Sunday, we're looking at the water graphs all day, talking to other people in the area, refuge managers, etc., looking at multiple graphs, and it was rising way too quick. And luckily, we did cancel it, because that next morning it rose, another 1.5 foot, and no cars could have been parked in the parking lot. Well, just getting there, you would have probably had water inside your door or your truck. So, unfortunately, Mother Nature's Mother Nature, and we just have to work around it.
Yep. Going back to the Suisun Marsh, so we've talked about this before. Denverton was all-time low last year. Multiple reasons. We had to keep water on the property for tumbleweed. Everything grew up too thick. So last year, Denverton was an all-time low. We're actually shooting better this year. So last year at this point, we had 254 birds. This year, we're at 322 birds, so about 70 more birds. Average is at a 1.4, number 1 bird spoon, number 2 bird mallard. We're still trying to figure that one out. We didn't get as much work done in the wetlands as we had hoped to reopen it back up to what it was pre-2023.
But there was a lot of food in those units.
There is.
Yeah.
It just seems like those birds in the Suisun Marsh like that openness.
Yes. Yeah.
Which we don't have as much as we used to.
No. But it's probably the most food we've had in the history of the property.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely thought that was going to change a little bit. But you never know. Like I said, that they could find it and get new fresh birds in there, and they might get in there. And
we haven't had is we usually get a big push of some sort of diver, whether it's ringnecks or canvasbacks or something. And we haven't had it this year at Denverton.
Well, surprising, because we just had those record 20-year high king tides.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised it didn't bring more divers in. Speaking of the king tide, when I was going to Grizzly Ranch the other day, there was big black pigs all over Grizzly Island Road by Joyce Island. Yeah. I've drove that thing a million times. Always have seen some pigs, but they were everywhere.
Yeah.
Like literally huge little cows.
Yeah, they get pushed up against that road on that high tide.
Yeah, it was awesome.
They're right up against the road. I've seen one actually hit right on that Grizzly Island Road going towards the Montezuma Slough boat launch. Those high tides. Last property we're going to talk about is Pope Ranch. So don't have any previous data from 2023 because we didn't hunt it last year. This was advertised as a pheasant and a duck hunt. You hunted ducks till 8, then you chase pheasants. So far, and we only hunt this every other week, so there's not a ton of actual people going out and hunting it. So even though the numbers are very low, there's only been, 12 hunters, I think, at this point. 6 ducks, 8 pheasants. All the ducks are mallards. Then you got 8 pheasants. I personally thought that there would be more mallards getting into this area. We do have some folks that manage or are part of private clubs near Pope Ranch, and they're actually saying the same thing, that they're just not seeing the ducks. So they're having bad years as well, which gives me some hope. We are also not fully flooded like we planned to be when we launched this thing full bore for duck hunting. We're still dealing with water issues. We had a pump out there that was actually pumping to fill the units. But the problem is that when it rains, the roads out there get really muddy, and we had to pull the pump on that first big rain before Thanksgiving. And at that point, we can't bring it back out and pump any more water. So we just basically have water in the swales, and that's it, which doesn't do a ton for holding birds. You get the local mallards, and that's about it. So
yeah, so if people could think of tight sloughs lined with tules and pockets of water, very mallard-esque sloughs. Our plan was to flood these floodplains outside of the sloughs to kind of make it like a larger wetland. Still water out there, still a very neat area, but there's definitely been, on the pheasant hunts, there's been more pheasant opportunities.
Yeah, so we have one more of those hunts coming up this weekend. We don't have any more to apply for because we wanted to make sure that pheasants were available if the duck hunting wasn't good. So with pheasant season ending, we don't have any more of those hunts. We will be working with water folks and other landowners around us to hopefully get everything buttoned up for next season so we can run it as it should. But until then, it was a good trial run. We figured out a lot of stuff that we need to do and we don't need to do. So learned experience there. All positive. That's kind of the wrap up of our properties. Let me see. I have some recent statistics from the state refuges and some firsthand accounts, I guess. So I always look personally. I'm a North Valley refuge hunter. My refuge was Delavan, so I always look at Delavan's number 12.8, which is, what was that, last Sunday? Yeah, looks like last Sunday. They were shooting a two-bird average. Saturday was a 1.6, 1.7. Snow geese, number one bird. So actually Ross goose, lesser snow goose. So the snow geese are getting in there. Teal, number two bird. But nothing jumps out at me on this list. A lot of 1.1s, 1.2s. The weekend or the week of 12.4 to 12.8 never really did much. Little Dry Creek had good hunts. 12.4, 3.5 bird average, mallard number one. 12.7, 3.3 average, mallard number two. Or mallard number one is on that date as well. And then Sunday, 2.3, mallard number one as well on that date. So that's
pretty
good. Pretty darn good.
When you were hunting Delavan, was there a specific weather pattern, or were you just always going there no matter what?
I was going there as much as I could. As somebody who just wanted to get out and hunt, I almost kind of hated the weather days because then everybody would show up and it would be harder to get on.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to get out. But give me a little bit of wind and some sunshine, and I was all about it. I didn't care for the rain out there. I didn't care for giant storms. I just wanted to be out there in a sunshiny, little bit of wind, kill some specks, kill some mallards, and get out. But looking at the list, nothing really jumps out as, wow, that refuge really, really did good. The week of 11/27 to 12/1, that's end of November. You're still in November, so slow times. Lots of 1.1s. That was the first day that Joyce Island hunted on Sunday. They shot a 5.8 with mallards being the number one birds.
The old Joyce Island opener.
Joyce Island openers. What's interesting to me is on 12/1, Grizzly Island shot a 2.4 with mallards being the number one bird. So is there just more mallards in the Suisun Marsh this year for Grizzly Island? They're running.
Yeah.
That day they had 93 hunters, and mallard was the number one. Well, for some reason they have mallard as number one bird and the mallard as number two bird as well. So that's the state for you, but they decided that the mallard. Maybe they shot nothing but mallards. That's all they could. That's all they could put. Yeah. So 2.4 with a mallard is number one, and a mallard is number two. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense. I guess we're seeing the same thing, and sandwich in between the two properties.
Here's a good one. Honey Lake Fleming unit on 1130, 4.8 average. Lesser Snow Goose number 1 and Canada Goose number 2.
Oh, guys went out and got them.
Goose shoot up north. Nothing else sticks out. Shasta Valley shot a 3.2. So at that point, it looked like there was birds up north. And then what seems like people are saying is they've moved down in this last little bit of storm. And we're seeing the same thing in our personal hunting.
Have you made the trek up north yet?
I went once early in the season. Well, what was that? Before Thanksgiving, hunted some private ground in Oregon, right on the other side of the border, and got into them both days, killed limits the first day and close to limits the second day. The first day was in a marsh, second day was in a flooded wheat field. But I know that the public guys up there that are hunting are getting them. There are opportunities to hunt public land on the California side up north.
Widgies and mallards?
Yeah, a lot of them. So I think people kind of not have forgotten about, Tule Lake. Klamath still is the same. Klamath doesn't have any water, but Tule Lake, if you have a boat, you can go hunt up there, and there's birds to be hunted. But it seems, at least for now, a lot of the birds are moving down. There's still plenty of birds up there, but birds are moving down into the valley. And if you don't want to drive that windy road past Shasta with some snow on it,
that's how I've always struggled with is you kind of always go up there early or in the season because it's kind of slower down here, and you have some good opportunities. When we used to go is, shoot specs out in the grain fields, etc. That's one of those things where it's like when it comes mid-December, you're like, well, I could drive 3 hours, or I could drive 40 minutes and be in a refuge at home and be probably similar results. Obviously, if you go up there, you're probably going to see a lot less people, but it is an unknown. You could go up there and the birds leave, or the birds just show up and you just have an incredible hunt. That's where I've always struggled with is do you go or do you stay? Because everybody's going to be pretty decent.
You tangle with it, and I'm lucky enough to have somewhere to stay indoors to the town right before the refuge, so I don't have to worry about housing or anything. But I still fight that dilemma of I live in Napa, so I got a 4.5 hour drive. Do I want to drive 4.5 hours to go up there to, like you said, I've been up there when the migrations happened and scouted the field the night before and went out thinking I'm going to get them, and not a duck shows back up. I've been there and done that. But you and I have talked about it. You're going for the adventure. You're not going just for, we can go out in the rice, we can shoot 7 ducks. Sure. But there's no adventure in that. We knew that when we showed up to the container, the side-by-side is going to start, and we're going to make our 150-yard walk down the check, and we're going to shoot 7 ducks.
And hopefully the ducks fly, right?
Yeah. But you go up there and you can put in effort, and your effort is a direct correlation to how you hunt, and it's not easy, and it's rewarding. So there's a lot of that.
Yeah. I remember my brother and I were up there, wanted to go. Didn't really have much intel on if it was happening or not, but we're like, let's just go. Let's try to put the goose spread up. So, we carted out there. This was before you could drive out in the fields at LK. So we carted everything out there, socked in with fog. Bad. And just the decoys are frosted because of the fog. And we're in this ginormous field, and this gentleman sets up that we could see in the fog. We're like, hey man, you're pretty close. Probably, not safe distance. He's like, oh, there's nothing flying anyway. We're like, okay. And then our buddy calls and was an hour away and was like, it's on. And we're like, we're in Lower Klamath. And we looked at each other, packed up all of our stuff and just drove, and then hunted the next day somewhere else. And it was awesome. But again, you have no idea once you go up there, because you got to commit to it, and sometimes it works. I've had way more good hunts up there than bad.
Yeah.
But it is a commitment.
Yeah. I've always usually been able to string out one really good hunt and one decent hunt if I go up there on a Friday and hunt Saturday, Sunday. But it seems I wouldn't even classify it getting back to a few years ago when there was water on both sides, but there's opportunity now, which there wasn't previously. So that's a step in the right direction.
Definitely seeing more duck boats and stuff around than it seems like the last couple of years, just at on the highways.
Everybody's hunting the flooded rivers.
Yeah,
there's no water in Klamath, but we have water in the rivers.
That is true.
I mean, think about how many years have we flooded out in a row now? 3?
It's been
4?
At least, I think. At least one flood, yeah.
And we're not even into January, and we've had 2.
I know that one in November that we just had.
That was a good one.
It stayed flooded for a while, which I was pretty surprised. I mean, it stayed flooded for a while because a lot of the times it'll flood, and you'll look at the sea deck stuff, and boom, it just drops off. So if you were wanting to hunt the floodwater, your window is so short. But it did stay flooded for a while.
Yeah, that one. I don't know if that's what hurt us so bad. I told people this as well. It was mid-November when that happened. Even in a normal mid-November, you're not shooting that many ducks anyways. So the flood didn't help anything, but you weren't expecting to go out and shoot limits. Now, for us in this flood, it's going to be interesting because this last week where we hunt in the rice, it really turned on and we were shooting a lot of ducks, and it may very well change in the next 2 days once those ducks find that floodwater and we lose ducks that we had previously. And now we're not shooting anything and we're midway through December.
Yeah.
Because all the ducks are in the floodwater.
Yeah, definitely. That's coming at some point. It's just, even prior to that big storm, it seemed like there was a lot of ducks sitting in District 10 and some other areas, just not really moving and up on 99. And sometimes, those storms come through and it just pushes all those birds that have been sitting there out of your area. And then you're kind of just sitting there again with.
I was thinking, where do they go? Because it seems like nobody gets them.
I've often wondered that. It's like, where do they all go? Because sometimes you talk to everyone and no one is.
You talk to people in the grasslands up north. It's like, no, we lost them too. It's like, hey, thousands and thousands of ducks apparently just vanished.
In California somewhere, I guess, on the closed zones, just sitting. I'll never forget. We went on a refuge tour one time, and it was like November, and there was not a lot of ducks around at all. And we were doing this auto tour deal, and then we went in a closed zone that's kind of off the auto tour with refuge staff, etc., for work. And I was astonished the amount of ducks that were on this refuge, where if you drove around or talked to anyone, like there was just no ducks, but they were literally stacked in these closed zones, coming out at night, obviously, gorging themselves and going back in the closed zones before shoot time. But that to me was very eye-opening when people say, oh, there's no ducks around. Well, there's somewhere. They're just probably not flying during legal shoot times. Right?
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder, like, where the heck do they go and go so quickly?
I don't know. We hunted today and barely even saw a mallard, which we've been killing a few of lately. Barely saw a pintail, which last week in the sunshine, I could have filled a semi-truck full of pintail.
Seemed like everyone I talked to said the same thing in the rice, from Butte County to Sutter County, like just lots and lots of pintail.
Today we killed 2 out of our 3 and really only had one chance to kill our 3rd, where, like I said, could have done it 100 times over before a week ago.
Yeah, and you think of, could have gone so super far. I mean,
no, because that's the thing. The water recedes, you get a sunny day and wind, and they're back.
Yeah.
So where did they all go sit during that intermittent time? I could be wrong, and I don't know if I am, but it's like I don't see a pintail being a bird going and chasing the floodwaters and getting in the timber and that sort of stuff. I see the mallards doing it and maybe widgeon and wood ducks, but
yeah, I think it pushes all those other birds out of the area, and then they wait for the water to come down.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it floods in Butte Sink and it pushes birds up north to Llano Seco, North Valley, and then the other ones just keep going down.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of waiting for them to come back. But
yeah, we've had a little bit of fog this season, but I don't know anybody that the fog's helped. People
do you like a fog hunt?
I feel like I used to. And I don't know if it's, the new age fog of the new practices and it's just low fog. Every time I've been in the fog, or at least where we hunt in the rice, I have not had a good hunt. Not once.
I have not had a true high fog hunt in a long time. It's been that low Thule fog, low fog where the ducks are well above it. But other than that, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. I would rather have a sunny day with absolutely no wind.
Give me that 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, just because the ducks fly above it. But I know, what was it, 2 weeks ago, the Butte Sink was socked in with fog, and it broke around 10:30 or 11. And anyone that stayed out within that entire area of the Butte Sink, it was just wide open for about 30 minutes and then stopped, you know. So you don't know some of those days like that where the ducks are just above it and just waiting to come down. But I've not seen a ton of those days like that where it finally breaks and there's just birds everywhere. But yeah, those fog days, I had one a long time ago, and probably the worst rice blind I had ever been in shooting in my life. And it was just like one of those days where it was like, the season has been a grind. Like, just did not shoot any birds at all. And it's like getting towards the end of the season, we're like, no, I'm just going to go. Because it's going to be over. I'm going to go. Asked my brother if he wanted to go. He's like, I don't know. I was like, well, I'm going to go. If you want to go, great. I went alone. And it was just one of those hunts, socked in fog, high fog, and the birds were lost, and just had the best shoot ever, and like by myself on the worst rice blind you've ever seen. And it was just crazy because some days you just have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, until you go. And that's the thing where it's like, I think sometimes it's frustrating where it seems like the season's picking up now. You can go tomorrow and not even fire your gun.
Yep. Yeah. When we got back from our hunt today, I was looking at the weather for tomorrow, because if somebody could look at me and say, I guarantee you there's going to be fog tomorrow, I would sleep in 100%. But my thought of like, if I can see, I will be able to shoot ducks. But I don't want to go and there be fog. It just doesn't do anything for me.
It's the worst when it's like clear and you're like driving up to where you're hunting.
You get there
and like fog. You're like 5 minutes out to your hunting location, or like you're going to the refuge, and it's like you hit the fog wall, and then you're going into it and you're like, oh no, this is bad.
Yeah, fog, at least for me personally, not my friend. I try to avoid it as much as possible. Trying to avoid it tomorrow. I'm going to keep an eye on the weather to see. I mean, I've seen 4 different weather reports from sunny to foggy, so I don't know who to trust at this point.
And we just don't get that fog. And some of the articles I've read, it's due to not as much pollution anymore. But I remember just when I was a younger kid, like hunting in Los Banos, I mean, you couldn't even see in the front of your car.
Yeah.
I mean, just scary how thick it was.
I remember doing that going over the Yola bypass, driving to Yola when I was younger.
Just scary thick.
Yeah.
Kind of glad it's not like that, I guess. But
yeah, it's safer, but not good for duck hunting.
Yeah.
So some of the hunts that we have coming up that are still available for our deadline that aren't just on CWA properties that we're going to highlight. CICC Outdoor Adventures. That is a 4-person hunt. If you were to win it, you basically win a guided hunt for your application fee plus your $25 hunter access fee. Pretty good deal.
Yeah, we're going to have Casey on later to this episode talking about the season and kind of what he's thought and how it's going for them.
We've got Thule Patch donated a hunt. They are just to the south of our Sanborn Slough property, so they have a hunt in January that they donate. We also have, let's see, a few more. Family Club, Suisun Marsh donates one in January. Mulberry, I was out there this last Saturday. They donate a hunt you can apply for. Delta King, also in the Suisun Marsh. And then all of our junior hunt opportunities that we have in February, obviously you can still apply for those in our January draw deadline. But those are going to be open for folks to apply for. I'm currently waiting on approval to get some more pig hunt dates approved in our Schaefer Ranch property in Dublin. Once that happens, we should have about 6 more pig hunts that you can apply for, with the first one being in January. The pig hunt deadlines are different than the waterfowl. Those are actually 2 weeks before the hunt takes place. So if you see those hunts online, just know that the pig hunt deadlines, as well as the turkey hunts when they come, are always 2 weeks before the hunts take place, not like the waterfowl deadlines, which are the third Saturday of the month before.
Yeah, and we should have some more turkey hunting opportunities this spring. We're also working with Fish and Wildlife Service to do the mentor turkey hunts there at Sac and Delavan. So pretty excited about continuing that. But like Carson mentioned, we'll have a bunch of pig hunts and turkey hunts here up on the website here pretty soon.
What's your forecast for the rest of the season?
I'm optimistic. It seems like earlier in the season was kind of slower. It seems like it's kind of picking up now. I do like the different weather systems, etc. It is colder up north, so I hope we kind of get back to that December, early January push of ducks. You know what I mean? And
Get some like good cold sunshine days.
yeah, I mean, I just personally haven't seen like the big widgeon days yet, so it's like that should be coming at some point. But no, I think overall it's been a good duck season. It hasn't been, I don't think, a terrible one. Last year, a lot of people were kind of crying the blues, but I think with like this last storm that we just had, I mean, most people I've talked to had a very, very successful Saturday and spent lots of shot shells out in the field
Yes.
in that big storm. So I think hopefully that's just kind of a kickoff to the second half of the duck season. So hopefully we don't get into those, 60 and mild days. But forecast looks pretty decent. I mean,
yeah, I was just looking at it, at least
wind
Calusa area. There seems for the next 2 weeks kind of on-off rain. The only thing we can't have is just these big storms that dump so much rain that we flood. But if we can avoid that and just get some movement in the weather, I feel like it could be a pretty good rest of the season. I've personally had a very up and down season. It was, for me, it's either feast or famine. I had a stretch from Thanksgiving on where I didn't hunt for 11 days straight, which for me, is a long time being in the industry. That's 10% of the season. I usually try to get out once a week. And the ducks just weren't here. People that I know weren't getting them, so it wasn't worth it for me to go. It wasn't worth it for me to spend the gas money. And before that flood in early or mid-November, I had days where I'd go out and I'd shoot limits, and I'd go the next day and not fire my gun. And we've been lucky enough this last week where our rice really kind of caught fire, and we stacked up a bunch of ducks. And I'm hoping that as long as we don't run into a bunch of water, we should be able to continue this for a while. So looking forward to hopefully keeping this train rolling.
Yeah, I'm going to hunt a refuge here on this coming Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. And
when's the last time you hunted a refuge?
I'm usually a couple times a year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, get a couple invites.
Not on your own resi?
I'm not very good at drawing, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, so usually my brother or a friend gets a draw. But I usually will put in for the opening weekend, which statistically probably not the best time to put in for. But I haven't pulled a resi in a while.
I haven't I mean, you're at the point now where you don't have to work the opening days anymore. I'm still helping out our technicians down the Suisun Marsh, so I haven't even applied. I don't think I've applied for an opening day since I started with CWA. I mean, and it's a weird experience where I just don't care anymore, to be honest. I'd rather go see people shoot ducks. I'll shoot them during the week.
Yeah.
It's fine for me.
Yep. But no, looking forward to that. Like I said, usually get out at least once a year on a refuge. Just like Carson mentioned, work schedule. Typically, we are working on shoot days. So
yeah. Got anything else before we reach out to Casey and see how his season's going?
No, I just want to say if you haven't put in for your draws yet, December 21st is going to be the last day for all of our January hunts that we have. Also going to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I know it's kind of a fun time of year, hanging around family, and I know growing up and still to this day, the holidays is taking time off, going hunting with the family, and celebrating Christmas. So hope everyone does get out in the field around the holidays, and I hope everyone is very successful on the field.
Cool. Well, we'll get over to Casey and see how his season's going.
We're live. All right, we got Casey Stafford here at CICC Outdoor Adventures outside of Colusa, California. Casey, how we doing?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Good, man. You staying out of this little weather storm we got coming in or had?
Yeah. I actually haven't had to get wet yet. Unfortunately, I've been stuck in meetings, but the boys are out getting wet and having a good time doing it.
Oh, boy. Did you hunt Saturday?
I did not, my friend.
No way.
I did not. Nope. I had the guides out, and everybody did well. I mean, everybody did good Saturday.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the season so far? We're halfway through it, a little over half. What's your thought?
think, I've always told my guys, the guys that work for me, everyone gets in a panic. And between the 10th and 15th of December is usually my go-to date.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Everything we kill before that's a bonus. And we've had some fantastic hunts and we've had some not so fantastic hunts. But I was getting calls Friday and Saturday. My guys up in Corning let me know, like, hey, Casey, there's a big migration coming down. They see the birds coming into the valley. And it definitely showed. I mean, I see them here. I see a lot more birds around right now. And I think from here on out, we should be golden.
I'm thinking so. Does the flooding of the Butte Sink, does that affect you guys much on your properties, or does that help push the birds in your area?
No, it seems to affect it a little. I mean, if somebody tell you the flooding isn't going to affect you, I don't buy into it. I mean, it definitely opens up new avenues for those ducks and in the backwaters, in the rivers. And I think what kills us the most is when the bypasses get full and you got the big rafts of birds down there. But it looks like we're going to get a spike in the water, run the weir today, and then it'll be done. So it shouldn't. I mean, it may screw us up for 3 or 4 days, but I think it's going to go right back down as fast as it went up.
Yeah, we had to cancel some hunts yesterday, and we're hopeful some coming up still go. But looking at the 2-week forecast, it looks like we have rain kind of on and off around Christmas. So hopefully it's just kind of little storms, not these big monsoons all at one time where we get those flooding events.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, you can see all the runoff today. I mean, the ground's saturated bad. Any, orchards beating water off of it, and that's where we're getting all that extra water. But if we get a week, 10 days, get a week break in between and then just start getting little storms, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you guys seeing more geese in your area or just ducks?
It just depends on where you're at. Up here in Colusa, there's a ton of ducks on the Delvin Refuge sitting up at the north end, and then down towards the southern end of the refuge is all pretty much white geese.
Huh.
And down the Colusa Refuge, I mean, I've been around that area a lot. There's a ton of ducks around right now, and there's still a lot. I mean, there's a lot of geese, a lot of whites around.
Do you guys chase those anymore, or are you just strictly kind of duck blinds?
No, I've got all my duck blinds set up. Like my guide blinds have anywhere from 200 to 400, 500 goose floaters at them, and that's kind of how I pick on those geese. We'll get the juvies coming in, or you get the lost ones. Like if we get some fog, we have some phenomenal goose shooting over our water spreads, and that's kind of my focus is the ducks and the geese. If they're there, of course, we're going to go for it, but I'm not going to go out and chase them in dry fields.
Yeah, that's something I haven't really done. Is a huge floater goose spread
over water. We were just talking about the fog a second ago, and we were talking about how in our rice area we hate the fog. So for you, it helps out the birds even if it's a low fog.
If I had my pick of what my weather could be every day, it would be a good fog.
That's crazy.
But a high ceiling valley fogged up where you're not seeing the sky unless you go up in the mountains, right?
Yes, and I don't want to see the sun. I don't care if I see the sun from now until the day duck season's over. I mean, that's when the first day of real good fog is good hunting. Usually the second day is better, and by the third day, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah, but when's the last time you've seen those right conditions? Like, it's been a while, in my opinion.
Yeah, but we get it. Over here on the west side, we'll get the fog a little better, and then south of Highway 20, like down towards Grimes and that, the fog will creep up from down south, and you get better fog down there, more days of better fog down there than you do valley-wide anymore. And, I mean, we've had a couple days this year. Like yesterday, the fog blew in from down south, but it came in late. But the birds, it had them trapped under it, so it worked to our advantage. It worked fine. Usually the fog blows in late morning; it's a kiss of death. But
yeah,
it was fine yesterday.
Yeah, we saw that where it was like at my house yesterday. It was like saw the huge, ginormous moon and the stars, and then as you're driving west towards Calusa, you drove into it and you were in it, But
and that's what kills you when it comes late. Like if we can get this fog start setting up, where it's good fog at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, all the ducks come out to feed in the rice are trapped underneath it.
Yeah, they get lost and they can't find their way back to the closed areas.
That is my 100% favorite condition to hunt in the world is the good fog.
Do you just leave the roll door just wide open?
Yeah. We just roll the top open, and I will stand and call nonstop. I drive people insane.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what you have to do because they're here and there, and it's hard for them to sometimes work back because they don't know where they're going too.
When I was a kid, everybody, I don't know why, but all the old timers always said, you don't call in the fog, you don't make any noise, you just sit there quiet. Yeah, that don't work for me. And I tell every one of my guys, I said, if you can hear those birds, you stand up and just whistle, call. I mean, I get so sick of blowing the call and whistling, but excuse me, you'll be doing it and you'll see a pair of ducks go by, dip through the fog, you hit them with the call, they go away, you don't see them, then pretty soon they come back and there's 10 or 12 of them. And they go away, and then pretty soon they come back, and all of a sudden you look up and there's 100 of them right in front of you.
Yeah.
If you can get the attention of a couple and get them flying around, get them working, those other birds, I don't know if they hear their wings, if they see them or what, but I've watched flocks, pairs, little groups turn into 60 birds right in the kill hole right in front of you in a matter of a couple minutes that you never see coming. I mean, you hear them start getting louder and louder, and then all of a sudden there they are with their feet down.
Yep. Now, what are you guys primarily shooting? Are you guys seeing any big groups of widgeon yet?
We have not killed many widgeon yet at all. The last few days, there's been some big balls of teal showed up. Obviously came down from up north. Right. Lots of pintail around all of a sudden again. Actually, a lot of mallards, but I have yet to see the big push of widgeons on our side of the valley anyways. I
mean, that's kind of the report I've gotten. A lot of teal were shot over the weekend, it sounds like, with this big storm and those huge, ginormous winds. But, yeah. How excited are you for that 3 pintail limit next season?
It's not going to hurt my feelings. I mean, if you look at, and it hasn't been horrible on the west side this year as far as sprig numbers, but usually we're over here just covered up in them where there's days where you pray to see a spoonbill because all you've seen for the last 2 hours is sprig, and you could have killed 50 of them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it'll be nice. I mean, and I think it's a good all the way around. It's going to take some pressure off some of these other birds, Guys will, some guys, diehard sprig guys are going to try to get their 3 bulls. It's not going to happen every day. But,
no.
Maybe it'll let some of this other stuff will get a pass,
Yeah, and I think, you go out for the rice guys and you go out and you shoot 3 nice bulls and that's all you have. That to me, that's a great day.
Solid day.
And especially if you got 3 or 4 guys in the blind. Shoot 12 bull sprig. I mean, I'm excited about that, right? I mean, I think the hunter opportunity is amazing there.
Yeah, no, I think it's great for the sport, especially the guys coming into it that can't ID birds. They don't have to be so careful. I think it's going to be an all around good thing, and it's nice to put 3 nice big ducks on your strap.
Oh, guaranteed. It's nice, and I think for even the newer hunters, just not having to worry about potentially making a mistake on another sprig. You kind of have that worry gone essentially. Right. So I think there's a lot of pluses there for the most part.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good thing for sure.
So how was you came back from Oklahoma? How was your trip?
It was fantastic, man. We had a good time out there. It's nice to see different parts of the world.
Duck hunting, or you do some deer hunting?
No, I hunted some whitetails while we were back there.
Okay.
I left the ducks be. I get them here for 100 days straight. So I wasn't going back there to chase them.
Has Cade hunted any ducks back there?
A little bit. He's here. Like that Oklahoma usually don't get good hunting until December, and he's already home.
Right. Okay.
So he's back here going to be guiding for me. He'll be here for 30 days. I guess he leaves January 12th.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, so he'll get his fill of duck hunting here, the stuff he's used to. Then last year when he got back, he did some hunting back there, but he's like, Dad, it's hella cold. The robo ducks freeze, your duck call freezes. I'm like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, a little bit different than the Sac Valley here.
Yeah, he took a little blade I had that I've had for years that had a little tiny electric motor. It's only like a 12-inch blade, and works fine down here. He took it up there. He's like, Dad, it's fun like 3 times in pro solid. Smoked the motor.
That's freaking great.
As far as motion, how many motion decoys or spinners are you guys running at your guide blinds?
Typically I put a couple, I have a couple King Mojos at every blind, and then we all pack around a blade with us, and I just kind of mess with it. I mean, there's of course days where they don't want to see nothing at all. There's days when that blade is where it's at. There's days when you turn the full circus on because they don't care and they just want to come,
Yep.
We kind of mess with it and see what the birds are doing, but everything we own and have is on remotes. That way you can shut them off. Like a lot of times I'll just use them to get the birds' attention. They'll look, we'll get them to look, shut it off, and then work the birds in.
Are they all programmed on one remote, or do you have like a bunch of remotes? Because I've tried the remote thing with like a Lucky Duck, and man, I think I mess with trying to get it off more than like, you know what I mean? Like I reach for that, and then I pick up a duck call, and I just end up just keeping it on the whole time because I'm fun. No,
the one remote won't work for everything. I've never had luck with that. You'll hit the button, one shuts off, the other one's on. You hit the button to shut it off, the one's off, the other one turns on. So I have them all programmed separately, and then I'll tape 2 remotes together.
Okay.
Where I know to grab with my hand the top 2 buttons for on or the top 2 for off.
Gotcha.
Like for the King Mojos, and then the one on my blade I just wear around my neck is where my whistle is. I just reach over and hit it.
Oh, perfect.
And there's not a lot of days I got the full 3-ring circus going. I'm big on the Oki. I run an Oki jerk cord.
What's an Oki jerk cord? Just manual?
Yeah, but it's something custom, Jethro. I might scare you with this, but all I do is I take my RoboDuck pole, my blade, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Push it in the ground. I have a ring that goes on the pole.
Yeah.
Attached to the ring is about a 18-inch bungee cord.
Yep.
I had a piece of rope. I go about 10 feet from it's about 10 feet long from the RoboDuck pole to the first 2x4. I use an 18-inch 2x4. I drill a hole through it and just put it on the rope and tie it.
And then like skips on the top. I've heard of this. People doing that.
And then I'll go another 3 or 4 feet and do the same thing. I usually put 2 of the 18-inch 2x4s on it. And then I just run it to the blind, and then you got, you pull against it because you're pulling against that bungee and just let it go. And I mean, you can make water move like crazy.
I've heard that. I've thought about putting those on our auto jerk systems, but never have. But you're not the first person that has told me that has worked, and it like huge ripples.
Yeah, it'll move water. You think those bubblers and all that other stuff move water? Don't move water. This will move water.
So do you have a hole through the board and then your line is running through the hole, or you like have it stapled or something on it?
No, you take your 2x4 or 2x6. It depends on how much water you want to move. I mean, you put a 2x6, you're moving, that much more water. But, you lay it down a long way, so it's 18 inches long, 3.5 inches wide. I just go to the center.
Yeah.
You go to 9 inches and drill a hole right through, put the rope through, but before, on one side you tie a big knot, and then go through the board and then tie another big knot so that the 2x4 is stuck there and it can't get away.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's stationary, and then just go 5 or 6 feet and do the same thing one more time, and then just run the rope to the blind.
Because the board essentially floats, right? Like, does it?
Yeah, the board's just going to float up there. But when you grab and pull on that rope, it turns sideways.
Yep.
And so now you got 3.5 inches of each of that board just splashing the water around.
Huh. Yeah, good idea.
Never even thought of that.
You gonna try it?
I might come back tomorrow with some boards drilled out.
Heck yeah. So we have some hunts with Casey. Casey is one of the longest hunt donors in our hunt program. So we have a hunt for 4 coming up this Saturday is the deadline to apply, and you can bring 4 guests, and then
you can bring 3 guests in addition to yourself.
Well, yes, 4 capacity hunters. So yeah, thank you. 1 hunt winner and 3 guests, and go hunt one of their blinds in the Sac Valley. So Casey's been a huge supporter of California waterfowl and has a ton of properties in Colusa County. And Casey, we appreciate your support, and we hope you get them for the rest of the year, man.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Casey.
All right, so our next guest is Jason Adversalo with Fowl Pursuer Outdoor Adventures. He's been a longtime volunteer and donor to our hunt program. Jason, how is the duck season treating you, my friend?
Oh, it's going good. It's going good. This last little storm was nice, except for the rain. It was a little out of control the other day, but it seemed to be doing good now. Other than the decoys are all blown to heck and need a little bit of work, but it's been actually picking up. It's actually starting to get pretty steady, so that's super nice.
Did you see some consistency prior to the storm, or do you think that storm kind of kick-started the season?
No, I think there was starting to get some consistency prior to that storm. About a week and a half prior, I was starting to see like a lot of new birds, a lot of like teal widgeon with really, really white bellies.
Yeah, really?
Typically when they've been sitting down here for a little while, they get that little stain, they get a little dirty on them. But
the new white bellies,
these
huh?
teal, yeah,
Oh,
they were big and white, and they they act differently. There for a while the birds were super stale and just kind of random, and now this new little group that kind of came through was really nice. The storm was good. Today was it seemed like a little stale, like they got kind of blown around, but but otherwise it's been pretty consistent as of lately, so it's been good. It's been exciting.
Have you guys been seeing those? It seems like there's like a couple big groups of pintail flying around the valley. Have you guys seen those in your area?
Yeah, we are starting to really see a lot of pintail. They're not necessarily really doing anything. I've seen a lot of the courtship flights already.
Yeah.
But we do see the big, huge wads of pintail. Some days, like if it's been a little cloudy or something and that sun pops out, they get really, really anxious and really workable. Days like today where you got that really gray sky, they're just kind of floating all over the place, no rhyme or reason. Don't listen to anything. So
yeah. So yesterday was that kind of typical day after the storm. Was it foggy where you were hunting yesterday, and how'd that work out?
Yeah, it was foggy. Where I hunt, we don't do very well in the fog. We ended yesterday with I think we shot 7 ducks for 2 guys, which I thought was actually pretty good. Typically, just because of where I'm at, we necessarily really don't shoot good in the fog. We shoot good when it breaks, but we don't have. They always seem to just be over the top all the time, and we really need it to break where we're at. Where you get some of those places that, they're locked in there and they're just kind of milling around inside, and we necessarily don't have that where we're at. So, but we need the fog to break for us. So,
how wild
was
the day before that on the big storm day?
Oh my goodness. It reminded me a long time ago of when we were hunting in a blind and the wind was so bad you couldn't see the dog, and the white caps in the pond, and that's what it reminded me the other day. The poor dog, I felt so bad for my dog. For the first time I really felt bad, and he looked miserable kind of towards the end of the day. Those birds come up and they get right there, and then you shoot them, and then they're 70 yards away, and if you shoot, get a double or something, by the time he gets back and then you resend them out there, they're across the field, and I felt really bad for him. But it was wild. It was wild. The wind was crazy. I know at a couple parts of the morning we were just kind of hiding in the blind.
And went through a bunch of shells, I'd imagine.
Oh man, it's tough. The guys get that's the one thing that makes it tough, is the guys love it and they think it's wild, but they also get super frustrated just because it's so tough to shoot in. I mean, you really kind of got to be on your game to shoot there. So when we had the little lulls in it, when that wind would calm down, we would do okay. But when we had that real heavy wind and the rain, the guys were really struggling. But they had a really good time. They couldn't believe it. The 3 people that I had were down from Bakersfield. And it was wild. They loved it. It was a father and his 2 sons, which was super cool. But
awesome.
they thought it was wild.
Yeah, I've always wondered, like, what does your pattern disbursement really look like in a big wind like that? It's got to be.
I was with somebody on Saturday, and they shot a bird, and I wasn't aiming at that one.
Really?
Yeah, and I was going, yeah, I bet you weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. You can pull up and you think you're shooting that one bird, and then 2 or 3 fall behind it. So
yeah.
I've always been super curious about that, because I know a lot of guys, like, it just depends on what they shoot. I shoot that full choke just because I'm kind of the last one to shoot if I'm shooting.
Uh-huh.
So I really wonder what it looks like, even coming out of mine, with that wind and how it goes. So it'd be really interesting to try and see something like that.
Yeah, because depending on, where you shoot, if it's head on or if it's a side shot.
Those super windy days, dude, sometimes I'll let them pass over me and shoot them in the butt as they're going back past, so they don't get that first gust of wind and are 80 yards back by the time you get your second shot
that's
off.
The thing. Even if they are in the hole, if you don't shoot them on their first shot,
you're done.
They're gone.
Yeah.
They are 40, 50 yards away in a second, which makes it tough.
And that's what we tried to do. I tried to explain that to the guys that, let them get over the top of us, and we're almost trying to shoot them from the back, shoot them in the butt, which kind of is tough, but it's so tough that by the time, we run the Gibson covers on our blind, and by the time those things flip open, they're already trying to open their wings and get out of there. So it makes it even tougher. So, but it was pretty wild. It's crazy the amount of water that we got, though, through that system.
Yeah, no, definitely. Have you guys started any of your guys' goose hunts yet?
No, we have not yet. I think I have one tentatively on Saturday, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
I'm kind of excited to get that going, but tentatively we're like right in the middle of the month is when we really start to get going.
Are you hunting them on the freshly flooded, like tow water rain fields, or are you going completely dry most of the time?
Well, everything's going to be wet now,
for a while.
But in the beginning, in November, we typically try and shoot them in the fresh flood, because that's what they're really wanting. We do have a blind this year that I just set up as a goose pit. It's just a 4-man blind, but it's in a goosey area, kind of, and that's what we've been trying to do, is shoot them out of the water a little bit, which has been pretty fun. But typically we like to hunt them out of the dry is what we try and do. Now that we've had all this rain, it becomes a mess and it's tough on the equipment and the guys. And so I really like to do it in the dry, a little bit drier. Most of these fields now are going to be probably pretty wet.
Yeah, laying in a rice field with a couple inches of water is never super fun for anybody. Even if you're wearing waders and stuff, you're just wet,
cold, miserable.
Yeah, it's miserable. And if you get in there and if you're not set up right and you get the water that goes down the backside of your waders, and then you're just miserable, and then it's no fun. So back in the olden days, we used to hunt them out of jet sleds. We'd set up jet sleds everywhere and we'd lay in the jet sleds, which was pretty wild. But that was almost close to 20 years ago. That was a long, long time ago. And we don't do that so much anymore. It's just a lot. And so hopefully we get a little bit of dry or find a field that's not too bad, but we'll see how that goes.
Now, what's your prediction for the rest of the season? How do you think
I think it's going to get better. I think if the weather cooperates a little bit and we lay off the rain just a little bit, typically if we get this much rain and everything starts flooding, they're calling for that Sutter bypass, I guess, was supposed to go over yesterday. It didn't look like it did, but I'm not, after this system that kind of went through.
It's running now. It's running right now.
Yeah. Yep. So I assume, if we get all the water like we have been, I think it's going to get a little dispersed out, but I've kind of got high hopes just on the amount of birds that I've seen, so far, and just kind of birds moving into the valley. So I'm hoping for a good rest of the season. My expectations are good. I think we'll be okay for sure.
At this point in the season for this year, is it better than your season was last year at this point?
Last year we had a really rough December. Last year we were struggling. It was, you'd shoot a few one day and then you wouldn't see a duck the next, and then you'd shoot them up really good and then it would be subpar or miss. And this so far, and just kind of looking back in my notes, typically we've always gotten going around the 15th, 16th of December, kind of right about now where we're really starting to see them. But,
Yep.
A couple weeks prior to this, I just thought it was a little bit more consistent than it was. I know definitely it was a little bit more consistent than it was last year for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that it doesn't fizzle out.
That's our hope too. But yeah, we kind of have that same opinion on the time frame of the month of, duck season really kind of getting rocking and rolling. So
yeah.
But,
yeah, hopefully that the flooding and stuff, because we got it really good there on that first one that went through. I think there was like almost 11 inches of rain down in Richville, and I had, all those blinds up there. We were trying to pump them out, and they were going over the levees, and that was real bad there for a while. So I'm hoping that it kind of gets consistent. You get a little storm here and there, and keep them kind of moving around, but I hope it doesn't flood.
Yeah. It looks like the 2-week forecast is kind of rain here, stop, rain here, but not these big, rain events where it does flood out super quickly. And
right.
If there's just always something in the horizon every couple days, I think that's kind of helps.
Get them moving around, but not screw up and flood out the bypasses and spread them out.
Yeah.
And move them down to SoCal. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really looked in the last few days, but I know there for a while it was getting cold, up north, Washington, Alberta, Canada, and that kind of stuff. And now I think it's kind of gotten warm again. So I don't know if that's going to make a difference or not. I think when it got cold there, I think that's when we saw birds kind of pushing. But hopefully that kind of freezes up and gets locked up there to kind of move those birds down. So hopefully we'll see that too, a little bit better
it'd be
weather
nice
pattern for over there.
Yeah, because the last couple of years it hadn't really gotten super cold up north.
No.
So to get kind of back into that would be nice. Just looking at some of the Edmonton, California or Canada, they're in the negative, so they're pretty much locked solid right now. But yeah, I hope to see the big balls of widgeon coming in, and it sounds like a bunch of teal moved in with this last storm, so they're probably on their way down to the grasslands after being in the rice, and definitely looking forward to the end of the season. Any other big plans you got going?
No, I'm super excited. Wednesday I get to hunt with George Oberstadt. He's going to come down and he's hunting with me, so that'll be fun. I haven't seen George, and I don't think I've seen him since he's moved. So that'll be super fun to catch up with him and see how he's doing. So I'm kind of excited about that, but that'll be good.
Right on, man. You'll have to give us the report.
Yeah, no, I will for sure.
Sweet. Well, Jason, appreciate you coming on today, buddy, and hope to see you soon. And Jason has some more hunts in our hunt program, so if you want to win a hunt with Jason or RJ and shoot some divers, put in for the hunt program this Saturday by midnight. So, Jason, appreciate you coming on, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Save It for the Blind podcast. You can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.